Hello and welcome to the Koi Pond Studio podcast. I'm Peter, your host, and I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host and co-founder, my beautiful and talented wife, Casey.
Hello.
Today we are on episode 3 of the Koi Pond Studio podcast, and as always, our first section is What are you stitching?
Yeah, so I've just started this today. This is our hourglass coffee maker design inspired by a Chemex coffee maker, which is our preferred way of making coffee. I make it every morning, and it's one of our favorite parts of our morning routine. So this is a part of our kitchen and coffee designs. And then I'm also working on another version of the Love Bites design. So I was stitching this last week, doing decorative stitches using the DMC floss that comes with the kit. But this week I'm also working on using specialty threads for the first time on this canvas. So this is part of our Romantasy collection, and I've used Very Velvet and then some silk thread for the teeth. And I definitely understand the hype behind Very Velvet now. It's very satisfying to stitch with, so would recommend.
Yeah. So just to explain why Casey's doing this. So we're working on a very special video where we're going to be showing you how to do needlepoint at 3 different levels. And so this will be level 3, where we're using specialty threads that are much more expensive threads, but they do create like really interesting textural effects on the design.
For the people who want to take their canvases above and beyond and just add even more dimension. This is for you.
This is for you. And I am still working on the Femin STEM craft one. So this is part of the Femin STEM collection, which is celebrating women in STEM, inspired by Ada Lovelace. And as you can see, I'm nearly done. You know, I've done most of the background, and I've done the STEM words. So yeah, nearly finished with this one.
Thanks, Mom.
I'm much slower than Casey. So next up is the news. So it's been actually 2 weeks since we recorded our last podcast. So what have we been doing?
Well, we had a big trip to Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Which was fabulous. We ate lots of pastries and other good food.
Mm-hmm. And visited lots of yarn stores.
Yes, I dragged Pete to like 5 different yarn stores, but I said that we were looking for potential yarns that we could use for doing like specialty threads on needlepoint canvases. And we did get a couple sparkly ones that I'm hoping will work. We'll see.
We'll see if they work. But yeah, we managed to buy a few interesting things, and hopefully you guys get to see them soon. Yeah, and on top of that, we've also been sending a few canvases to our friends, our IRL friends, just to kind of test the waters and see what their feedback is. And so far, it's been good feedback. So we're very relieved that it's very scary to send things to people for the first time and see what they think. So yeah, we're really glad that people seem to like it. Yeah.
It's also very exciting for me because I think a big part of starting this brand was I wanted to pack orders, and I get a lot of enjoyment of like sorting through everything and assembling it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun packing those orders for our friends, and I hope we get to send them out to you guys soon.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the main topic of today's podcast, which is, what is needlepoint? I think we have become very aware that a lot of people in the UK have no idea what we're talking about when we say needlepoint.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to cover today. Hopefully, by the end of this podcast, everyone should at least have a decent idea of what we're talking about when it comes to needlepoint. So, what is needlepoint?
Yes. Okay, I think needlepoint boils down to a type of needlecraft that is done on a fairly thick and like stiff canvas, where the design is either painted or printed onto the canvas, and then you stitch the entire design with your choice of thread. Could be cotton, could be wool, anything, silk. And then once you've completed the entire design, you would then turn it into another product, such as frame it or an ornament. You can make cushions or pillows, belts. There's loads of other products that it gets transformed into. But essentially, the craft is you're stitching to make a fabric, and then that fabric can then be turned into a different product.
Yeah.
That you can display in your home.
So we often say that one of the benefits of needlepoint is that it feels like paint by numbers. So do you want to explain what we mean by needlepoint is like paint by numbers?
Yes. So since the design is either printed or painted onto the canvas, and if it has been stitch printed, then that means each intersection or each of the little crosses of the canvas has a color designated to it. So then as you're stitching, you know, okay, this intersection or cross should be stitched with pink, whereas this one should be stitched with the brown or the darker brown, and so on. So then you don't have to think about which color goes where. You're just filling in the design with thread as you go. So that's kind of why it's like paint by numbers.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the benefits of it. And when we showed you stitching before on social media, people assumed that you were doing cross stitch. Mm-hmm. So can you explain the difference between needlepoint and cross stitch?
Yes, I can see that there's a lot of similarities between cross stitch and needlepoint because they're both needle crafts. They're forms of embroidery where you've got a needle and thread and you're stitching on the canvas. I would say the main difference is that needlepoint uses typically a mono canvas, which is much thicker, and you would stitch the entire design on the canvas, whereas with cross stitch you would use an Aida cloth, which is much more flexible, or maybe you would use a linen. So that's really good for delicate designs. You don't have to stitch the entire background. And then also with the stitches, for cross stitch, you're primarily just doing the typical cross stitch, right? That's why it's called cross stitch. It looks like an X. Whereas with needlepoint, the most basic stitch is called a tent stitch, which there's different ways of forming that stitch, but it looks like just half of a cross stitch. But then also with needlepoint, you can do a lot of decorative stitches, like I'm doing with this design. So there is a lot of ways to add your own creativity to the same design with needlepoint, whereas with cross stitch, it's great for just getting a lot of detail in, because usually you're doing a smaller count, so and doing a lot of colors. But then also with cross stitch, typically your design isn't printed or painted onto the canvas, so you have a chart and you're counting the stitches from your chart and then stitching onto the cloth. And if you miscount, then it's very frustrating and you have to make the decision, oh, do I just leave it and live with it, or do I rip it out? Whereas with needlepoint, it's much easier to tell what color goes where, and you don't have to think and count. Especially at the end of the day when your brain just can't handle the counting.
Yeah. And like a lot of people look for stamped cross stitch for that reason, but this isn't stamped cross stitch. So what's the difference between those two?
Yes, so it is similar in the way that, so stamped cross stitch, you have the design printed onto the cloth. Typically, that is like a water-soluble ink that once you've stitched your design, you'll soak your canvas in water, and then the print will dissolve away. I think it is a bit tricky finding good quality stamped cross stitch where the design is legitimate and not just stolen artwork, and as well sometimes it's not perfectly aligned with the intersections where you need to stitch, whereas, or at least our printed canvases we use a special acrylic ink that is not water soluble, so the ink will not bleed once you've blocked it, and it doesn't get sticky or anything, and it's also stitch printed, so it's only one color per intersection, or one color per cross on the design. So it's very accurate and makes it very easy to stitch.
Yeah, and you don't have to look at a chart.
And you don't have to look at a chart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all of the designs in our collection have been designed by me. So, no stolen images, no AI used here.
Yeah, real art by Casey. So in the UK, there's a lot of places that sell tapestry. Can you explain what the difference is between tapestry and needlepoint?
Yes. So I would say in the UK, the two terms are often conflated to be the same thing. So if it is a tapestry kit, typically it is a printed design where you're stitching each intersection, similar to our needlepoint kits. I would say tapestry leans more traditional in the types of designs you'll find, and it also typically is a lower stitch count. So that means that if it's typically like 10 or 12 holes per inch, so that means you'll use a thicker thread. The canvases will tend to be bigger because there's less detail per inch. So having a bigger canvas then allows for more detail to be added in. And the products typically are turned into pillows or things like that, larger, designs, which makes sense. Whereas the needlepoint kits that we're making, ours are 13 count, and we've got modern designs that fit my interests as a young lady.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they are one and the same within the UK.
Yeah. I think the nice thing as well about our stuff is that it's much smaller, right? So we've deliberately gone for a much smaller size of needlepoint because it's more approachable for beginners, it's more affordable for beginners, and it's just easier, it's more portable, right? Compared to what you typically get with tapestry.
Yeah. I think it's a great size to give it a try, see if you like it, and then maybe down the line we'll branch out into larger designs, or maybe even the same size but smaller holes, or more holes per inch, so that we get more details in. But we'll see.
We'll see. One of the most popular crafts in the UK is crochet. People absolutely love crochet. You love crochet as well.
Yep.
So if somebody loves crochet, what would they like about needlepoint?
Yeah, I think for crochet and also knitting, loads of people like knitting in the UK. At least for me, I love it because I love lots of colors, and I love touching stuff with my hands, right? The yarn is so squishy, but it's also just really nice to make something with your hands. You can't hold your phone, and then it's that repetitive motion that really kind of soothes you, and then you make something at the end of it. So needlepoint is great for those kinds of people as well, because you're making something with your hands. You've got lots of beautiful colors, especially when you go down the specialty thread route, stitching with velvet or silk. You're like, ooh, it's so premium, and it's really satisfying to stitch with. I would say it's great for people who don't have they like. I love doing knitting and crochet, but sometimes I just don't have the capacity to read a pattern, count my stitches, really think things through. Needlepoint is a great way to satisfy my need of not going on my phone and doing something creative, but then I can just look at the colors and stitch what I see, and then get all those benefits, and then still make something at the end of it.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed about crochet is that a lot of people bring it with them to different places.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like crochet is quite bulky, really, to bring around.
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends what you're making, for sure. Some things are definitely home projects, but, like, you can make little things. But yeah, needlepoint is excellent for taking on the go. It's very self-contained, especially our kits that are this 4x4 design. And, the thread is quite small as opposed to massive balls of yarn.
Exactly.
So and the other thing is, like, you can take it anywhere. Like, we when we flew to Copenhagen, we were stitching on the plane, and it's the perfect plane activity, because you can fit it in your lap. You're not getting in your the seat partner's way, and yeah, you can store all your little scraps within our project bag. And it also doesn't take up that much space in your bag when you're traveling, which is important. It means you got more space to go buy things and bring back.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's a great, if you love the portability of crochet, or you love doing crochet on the go, I think you'll love our needlepoint kits, because they're so portable, especially with the bag that we give you. And another big question that we've seen is people are just wondering, like, what do I do with my needlepoint once I've stitched it? So do you want to talk a little bit about some of the finishing options that exist?
Yeah. So with needlepoint, it's as complicated or as easy as you want it to be. I think the easiest way to finish a needlepoint design is by getting a frame, putting it in, have the nice matting around it, and then you can display it on a wall or on a shelf. That's probably the number one way I would recommend for beginners if you want to, finish it, like capital F finish it, as in you've stitched it, that's lowercase finished, and now you want to turn it into the finished product that is a capital F finish. So yeah, framing it is probably the easiest route for that. The other ways you can do it, you can turn it into an ornament by, there's a lot of DIY guides out there on how to turn it, how to add a backing and add the cording. You can also turn it into a pillow, which is a great way to, like the Femin Stem ones, I think would be excellent with a little mitered border around it, and then some backing as well.
Yep. You can also turn it into a coaster.
Yeah, coasters are great. Perfect size for a coaster.
Yeah, or like a little tray.
Yeah, you can get acrylic trays to put them in.
Yeah.
So then that way, if you put things on top, the acrylic is protecting your stitches from actually getting dirty or anything like that. Some people turn them into handbags.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not with these designs, but I've seen needlepoint belts are very big within the community. Maybe one day we'll design one of those. Stockings are another big thing.
Yeah.
But for these small designs, I would say ornaments, framing, or pillows are great. And then even with this one, if this 4x4 square is a bit too big for an ornament, you could do an irregular shape where you just stitch the coffee maker and then maybe a little bit of the border around, and then have it as just like the object. And it is a bit more that is not a beginner way of finishing the product, but it could be a very unique ornament to hang on your Christmas tree. That's not as like bulky as a square.
Yeah. And you got a finished, lowercase finished canvas there. Do you want to just show people what it looks like when it's stitched? You've got a bunch that is stitched.
I've got a bunch, yeah. So I've recently finished our fairy wings. Yeah,
I love this one.
This, I think, would look amazing framed. I think we're going to make a little gallery wall of all our finished designs.
Yep.
So, framed, or I think as a little pillow would be really sweet. We've got Loved Bites. Again, would be great. All of them are great framed or as a pillow. But if you did want to make an irregular ornament out of it, you could just do the lips and then a little bit of the border and just don't stitch the words. You know, that's a way to make it your own. And then have, the lips and the vampire teeth as an ornament. And then we've got our Feminine STEM code and DNA fully stitched here. So framed, or I think, as a pillow would be really fun. A little sofa with all my Feminine STEM pillows.
Yeah. So yeah, there's lots you can do. We'll be making lots more content on finishing and tutorials on finishing and so on and so forth. So yeah, don't worry. There's lots you can do with your needlepoint, but we just want to get people stitching, because I think that the finishing part, that's like the second big payoff. But I think the first big payoff is just once you get into it, you realize how satisfying it is, how meditative and therapeutic it is, and just you realize how much more present you are compared to when you're just doom scrolling on your phone. I think that's the first big like aha moment, and we just want as many people in the UK to experience that.
And if you think to yourself, oh, I really want a pillow, or I want an ornament, but I don't feel confident that I could do it myself, or I don't want to, there are finishers out there that you can pay to turn your needlepoint into your dream object.
Yep.
So that's we'll share some finishers here in the UK as well.
Yeah. So lots of different options. So yeah, thank you so much for watching today's podcast. We really appreciate everyone who's been following us, subscribing, liking our videos. We super appreciate all the support that we've had so far, and yeah, happy stitching.
Happy stitching!